Welcome to another day. We've got a bit of a mess going on out here right now. Getting a little sick of it, but we're working towards that goal of getting it finished up and cleaned up. And what is left to do are these two bucket seats. We are a little, I don't know, shaky about doing these. Really, it's the cushions right here I'm most nervous about, to be honest, because they got to be kind of right perfectly. There's no place to hide any doo-doos or screw-ups, and you know, if like this is off a little bit or the piping's off, you can give it a tug this way and give it a tug that way and help things out quite a bit. But those things got to be perfect. So they were really the nervous ones we've been kind of thinking about. But to make things happen, we went ahead and pulled the vinyl off our first one here. And things are not looking as good as we were hoping. We've already found that this seat bucket is basically broken right there. And it's going to be a bit of a bear to get back together, because this is some sort of, I don't want to rip all this foam up because I'm trying to hold on to it, at least for patterns, but that's basically a two-part composite expandable foam, and that's what they used for the bucket. But that's something we'll work on here in a little bit. What I've started right now is I want to get this thing disassembled. So I've gone around, as I said, and I pulled all the vinyl off as precariously as possible, trying not to damage any more that's already been damaged. Then I've got my seat out here, and I can see that the people that put it together, I don't know if these have been recovered or what, but they had some like notches put in it for marking exactly where everything is supposed to meet up at. And what I did is I basically went around and marked all those notches with letters of corresponding on both sides. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little tool here, my little stitch undoer upper, and I'm going to go ahead and undo these stitches. Hopefully it doesn't look like it'd be too terrible, and I can get just underneath the one. I'm telling you, I can split that boy right off and we'll be done. Or I can spend the next 2 hours sitting here picking at it with a razor blade. We'll see. Welcome to another day. We got started on these guys last night. Decided we were going to take one apart and actually dissect it, find all its pieces. Then I took a little of this balsa wood I had laying around and sandwiched some pieces between it to try to flatten them out. And then of course we found the damage to the one bucket, and I thought to myself, you know what, it'd be pretty silly to go out here and fix this thing and then find damage on the second one when I decide to do it. So the rational thought is to go ahead and strip this one too, even though I really wanted to leave it together so I would have a visual reference on exactly how it went back together. I don't think that's really going to be a big issue this time. I have enough film and whatever anyway. But we have found that with our second bucket it actually is intact, which is a good thing. But there is some loose things that want to lift up, you know, like so. And the inside needs a little help also. So guess what? We're on our way to the garage. Sad part about that is the garage is a wreck right now. So we have a bit of a mess to clean up before we can actually do anything. But we have to shut down the basement, and we'll see you in a minute. So here we are, out here in the messy garage. Told you, it's become the dumping ground. It's just what happens, you know. If I got a project going on downstairs, then this becomes the dumping ground. As you saw last summer, with a project that was going on outside, the interior ended up becoming dumped in my basement. So yeah, they kind of support each other in each role. But I have an old boat top over there. It got split because of snow load. Yeah, I want all the bungee cord out of it, so it just got wrapped up and dumped right there. Of course, I've got all my foam down here from the upholstery project that we have going on at the moment. Had some Home Depot stuff I got. There's some hose for the motor. There's some more stuff over there on the bench. There's some more stuff underneath the seat that I just put on top of the motor, which I was making sure I didn't try to break the distributor. So I have a few minutes of work here before we can actually get started on fixing these buckets, because I have no room to do anything in right now. Alright, we got that out of the way. Mess is cleaned up somewhat. Got a motor pushed back. Opened up a can of worms here. Yeah, this is not what I thought it was going to be. But I'm glad to discover it now instead of later. This is just a mess, to be honest. This part here was on top. It was kind of there. I was going to go ahead and I was going to sand it off around the edges here, and then just reapply all the way up a little further upside the box here. Now, started noticing, because I was going to fill in my holes here, and here, just in case my new setup has a different bolt pattern, so to speak. I didn't want the holes to be there, so thought, why not fill them in? And as I was poking around, I noticed that they were coming apart. And on the top side is what you see this. It's nice and solid, it's good plywood. On the bottom side, they actually had this particle board, which I can find some of it here. Yeah, this particle board was on top of this piece of plywood to make up the gap between, I don't know, I guess it's about 1.25 inches or something like that. So, what a mess. They both got to come out. This one isn't the broken one. The broken one's actually out here in the driveway, and I'm getting ready to take the bottom out of it. A little chilly out, but you know, I'd rather do it out here than in the garage. And that's our broken piece there. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to epoxy this piece back together. I know it's just foam, but then I'll fiberglass this whole section right here, inside and out. That should be as strong as the rest of the foam, and the rest of the foam seems to hold up quite well over the years. So I mean, they were stuffed around and thrown in the back of trucks and in the back of boats and been pushed everywhere and stepped on and pushed on and kicked on and whatever else, and only one side is broken, which I didn't even notice it was broken until actually I took it apart. Next, I'm going to grind this guy off, get rid of this layer, and we'll get the wood out of it. And I'm going to have to go see if I can find some plywood. I think I have some scraps around here somewhere, I'm sure. And we'll have to cut out some new interior boards for him. As I said, this was a can of worms. I figured maybe a day and a half, just because it's so cold out here in the garage. I didn't expect the fiberglass to kick off fast enough. I mean, if it was summertime, I was figuring a couple hours. But now, yeah, this is a setback. But as I said, got to get it done. Okay, ladies and germs, I'm getting double usage out of my gallons of oil here. We've got our first layer of wood in. Yeah, and using up a lot of fiberglass materials once again. I'm going to have to add this to my total. I think I was up to 35 and had 2 in reserve. Well, those 2 in reserve are going quick. Basically, I got to set this thing like a transom in a boat, because it has a layer of fiberglass, but it actually goes into the foam. So I can't take that layer of fiberglass out. If I do, it's just going to destroy the whole seat entirely. And there's another layer of wood on the front half, or the top half, I guess it's the top half, underneath the cushion. How's that? And it's intact. It's just a little scuffed up a little bit, but it's totally intact without a problem. It's also one of those ones, if you had to take it out, the seat would be no good anymore. So I guess I'm kind of counting my blessings here that they actually, it was just the bottom halves were rotted out, because if it was any more extensive, I'm pretty much thinking these things would have been crumbled up and thrown in that trash can right there. So it's going to cost a few bucks, but it's a few bucks that was just sitting right over there by that bell housing, so it's not really a big expense at this point. And as I said, I've got my 1 layer in, getting ready to do the 2nd layer. It's not going to kick off tonight. I've already had this layer in for about 45 minutes. Normally in a much warmer atmosphere it would have already kicked off and been solid, but right now it's just as soft as the moment I put it in. I mean, I'm using Cavasil so it doesn't rub all over the place, but you know, it ain't gonna help it dry up any faster, that's for sure, or cure any faster. These things are going to be 100% when we're done. Actually, considering the way they were built, it would probably be 190%. Saw a couple things that I was not very happy about, or what can I say, you know, these guys built these seats who knows how many years ago, so they've lasted this long, but it just seemed like simple little things I looked at and I was like, if you would have done that, you probably wouldn't have had this problem. But again, here I am second guessing 40 years later or whatever it's been. So I'm going to get in my next layer and we'll update you then. Alright folks, that's about as far as we're going to get this evening. It was a lot further than we thought we were going to have to go in the first place. I thought I just got to fix up a few things, maybe fix this one over here with the broken, you know, wing on the side. We just got a whole lot deeper real fast, but at least we're moving forward. We got the new boards in, got both layers in, went ahead with some poly, a little bit of Cavasil and a lot of chop strand down here, and mixed that up, used that to fill the last layer. So this is all chop strand. It kind of looks like chop strand itself, you know, the sheets, but it's not, it's actually just out of the bucket. And I will leave that on overnight because it's not kicking off. And one thing I've got to be really kind of cautious about, and I didn't think about it at first, is I got to be cautious about how much of this fiberglass thing I do at one time, because you know it is foam and I'm sure it's up to a certain temperature, but fiberglass, you know, thick areas of it will tend to get pretty darn hot. Lucky enough it's pretty cool out in here, probably in the 50s right now in the garage, so that will hopefully negate it melting and being a pool on the floor tomorrow. So we're just going to leave that like it is. Tomorrow we'll grind off all the rogue hairs and we'll start putting down some matte chop strand. I don't know, I think I'll do the chop strand instead of the cloth. It just seems like it would be more reasonable. And of course, as you can see, we've got the whole side in here in traction. We use some foam purpose adhesive. They use this stuff on basements when they're putting the foam insulation on the outside of a basement. They'll use this stuff. Yeah, it's liquid now. It's the only thing I can think of that would actually stick foam to foam. Now I have epoxies and stuff like that, but it would probably have just, most of it would have ran out, or even the gel would have just not really kind of made the contact I really wanted. So I just took a bunch of squirts of that liquid nail, got it up in there. I left the foam on the inside. It's actually glued inside here, and that kept that side inside right So when I pulled this side, it actually created tension on the inside and created tension on the outside, which worked out perfect. So we're just going to let that sit overnight also, and we'll come back and attack this thing tomorrow. See ya. Alright, we spent a couple minutes out in the rain there. It's not a pretty day, that's for sure. So we are kind of happy that we're in the garage, and went ahead and disc ground up all the edges. Everything is, majority of it was flattened. And I grabbed some regular sandpaper and ran a hand across it and make sure everything else was done also. Because, you know, when you're buzzing along and you're spending 70, 80 seconds doing the whole thing, you can miss a spot or two. So we just made sure that both of them were that way. We sanded her aside just slightly, made sure all the extra glue that was coming out of the seam was all removed and all that good stuff. Gave it just a tiny bit of texture, because on the outside, I guess when they poured this foam in a mold, it creates a kind of a surface, and this will actually break up some of the bubbles and allow the poly to saturate into it and become real, you know, solid to it. It's kind of the theory all the way around. That's why I was sanding to begin with on foam. I really was, you know, really nervous about it, because it's so easy just to take a disc grinder and go, whoop, and all of a sudden all of that's missing. So, but we're done with the disc grinder for now, that's for sure. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to do a lot of fiberglass that I've got sitting all over the place here. Bunch of chop strand, that's it. Just a couple layers to seal things up, I guess, because, you know, the majority of the pressure, it sits there, and then it's got the other layer of fiberglass, so this fiberglass really isn't holding up a lot. It's just kind of sealing off the bottom. So, but of course I'm going to overdo it. I'll put a couple layers around, and then I'm going to put 2 whole layers on top. I'm going to get the other layers to come down here a little further around the sides, grab a little more. The way they had it built, I mean, they didn't put nearly that much effort into it, and it lasted as long as it did. So, I mean, if I put all this extra into it, it should be good for eternity. Just outside getting a little fresh air here, and detoxify the garage, let some of the heat and the fumes escape. But it's a necessity if I actually want to continue breathing. But we've gone ahead and we've got 2 layers all the way across everything, and as you saw, I did another layer kind of like around the outside to make sure it got further up the bucket, so to speak. And then on top of that, I went ahead here and I fixed the break. This is just the outside stuff. When I get done with this and it's solid, I'll be able to take the foam off of the inside and actually go ahead and fiberglass that up. And the fiberglass actually goes all the way to the point, all the way down here, and ties into the bottom. So it's going to be pretty encapsulated. I was thinking about doing the whole thing in fiberglass, and I was thinking, man, the weight's going to start adding up, and there's no reason for it. Like I said, it just got broken there because they probably got smashed somehow. But with that done, and being 50 degrees, and I have my door open at the moment, which is even colder outside, this is not going to go off for a little while, so I'm kind of stuck. I'll see what happens later, but I'm thinking later may be too late. So until next time, welcome to another day. Yeah, we're back at it again on our $1 million bucket seats here. It's getting ridiculous. I mean, it really is. This is day 3 or 4. I don't know if it's going to represent that on the film, but it's definitely day 3 or 4 for me. And the main problem I'm having is my thermometer on the wall that says 80 degrees lies. And I guess that's I wish it was thermometer, because it is about half of that right now. And I actually have my normal heater, which I leave going all year, and a space heater going at the moment. And at some point here shortly, I need to open that door and go out and do some sanding, and it's bone chilling cold out today. So all that aside, we did our fiberglassing last night, and it turned out quite nice. I mean, it's almost nice enough just to leave it like it is and paint it. I mean, there's 1 or 2 rogue hairs up on the top here, which I'm not even going to disc sand any of that. I'm just going to run over it with some, like, I don't know, 100, 120 grit, just hand sand it real quick. And before I actually do the vinyl, I hope to paint these, meaning that just, I don't know, some flat black or something on the bottom side and maybe where the cushion goes. At the moment, though, I really don't want any black paint to come off on a gray cushion, so not sure what I'm going to do at the moment. I do have some black Rust-Oleum, which I could actually use and hand paint this, which would probably be a lot better. But that's all, you know, neither here nor there. Today, as I said, we got this guy to this point, which is awesome. And as I was saying yesterday about how I wish they would have done a few things a little better, you know, I mean, as I said, these seats have lasted 40 years, but they weren't best built in the first place. As you can see, it's a 1/2-inch void. This one doesn't have this. I haven't flipped this one over yet, but this one does. This one does, and it's just where they just missed. I mean, they just totally missed, and they just said, "Yep, piece of vinyl go over top of that," and nobody ever noticed. Well, I'm sure they did when it all started sagging into this part here, and it just makes the whole seat weaker and a place for water to pocket. I mean, if you're rinsing off your seats or whatever, you take your cushion out. That's one of the benefits of having removable cushions. You take your cushion out, you set it up on a deck, you squirt your seat out because maybe you spilt a soda or a beer in it or whatever, you know, and you're going to have these pockets, which actually goes right down to the wood too. It aggravates the crap out of me. But these pockets, I mean, this right here is behind the fiberglass, and we go right into the wood. So all that has to be fixed. Also, back here, you can see where they just dabbed it up into the corner, but it's all just like hanging. So to do this whole bottom, I'm just going to take my grinder and I'm going to grind off some of the spots, some of the heavier areas where it leans out a lot all the way around the edges here, and we're going to fix these guys and make them worth $1 million a piece, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I really had to do this as a business, I'd lose my shirt in the first week I open the doors, because technically these seats aren't really worth it. But since I did have the materials already in stock, meaning they were paid for this boat, you know, but yeah, by the time I added up the cost of the fiberglass mat, the cabosil, the chop strand, brushes, you know, cleaners, everything else, and the work and labor, you know, Mark never counts his work ever. These seats would not be worth fixing. But since everything is here, it makes total sense, because the reality is this was wasted money, that was wasted money, that was wasted money, if it was just going to sit over here for the next year and a half and go bad. So, but we got a lot to do, and it's a cold day to do it. number 2 down. Yeah, we tabbed basically all the way around the inside. Put a couple layers over the nose here to just basically make it a little more rigid and help with the rounding, so to speak. And then 2 layers all across the flat surface. I mean, it was not really an issue to begin with. Like I said, the inside surprisingly was in really good condition. It just filled in all the voids where it came out of the factory bad, lack of a better term, and filled in where the the bolt holes were and all that, divots, things like that was. And now it's basically a brand new floor to start with on both of them. And the problem is, it's like I've been saying for the last few days, it's a bit chilly out here, and that stuff is about as liquid as I put it down. So yeah, it's 7:30, almost 8 o'clock. We're probably done for the night, so we'll see you tomorrow. Welcome to another day of boat seat life. This definitely is dragging on and on and on. But I'm sorry to say, this is just what happens. I mean, if you're going to do a project like this, you got to understand, there is times like this. Sometimes they come at bad, sometimes they come at worse times. This one doesn't really kind of fit any of that category because we really are not pressed to do a whole lot else. I mean, we could be working on some vinyl, and we could be doing this and could be doing that. But I really wanted an intact seat to kind of put some vinyl up against and make sure it's kind of like in the general area I want it and all that good stuff. And I can't do that while they're sitting out here in the garage. We did all our fiberglass work last night, and yeah, it turned out fine. We're perfectly happy with what's here. It's not the best fiberglass work I've ever done, but it's totally functional. Our shoulder came out to 100%. I mean, this thing is solid as solid can be. It's actually tied into the bottom, goes all the way up the side here, over the top, comes down this side, gets tied into all this, which is actually tied into the base here. It comes all the way out here and around. At this point, this whole section here is probably stronger than this section over here. So we're good there. We just need to do a little sanding around the top here to knock off that edge, and then it's just going to get left like it is. Got my little box sander out here. There's like a rogue hair here and there. That is one right there. I want to get off. I want to make sure that it's nothing sticking up like a stalactite or stalagmite, whatever the one that sticks up out of the ground. How's that? Because there will be a vinyl seat that sits on here, and it's only vinyl that sits on that section there. So if there's something sticking out of it, it'll actually start poking holes in the vinyl. We don't want that. But at the same time, I don't want it super smooth, because if it's super smooth, then these seats will come flying out of it, or these cushions, and I've really had a problem with that over the years in these seats. Not these seats in particular, but seats like them over the years that have cushions that actually remove. I mean, you get bouncing out there, bam, 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 and all of a sudden you're just like bouncing right out of the seat. And you don't understand why, and it's actually the cushion that's coming out of the seat. Now, I'm sure there's ways of attaching it, probably with some Velcro or something, but we'll just try the actual textured surface on vinyl and see if that holds it in place for now. So I'm just going to knock off, like I said, the little things that stick up that would actually damage the vinyl. Don't really have a whole lot to do because the majority of it actually is covered. I mean, this vinyl comes down here and goes right into there, and that's all. The backside is all covered, so we don't have to worry about that. But there is areas that will be exposed at certain times during, its lifetime, and those areas have to be painted. And where I'm at right now, it wouldn't matter if I spray painted them or got out my gallon of Rust-Oleum black like I have, and my Krylon farm implement catalyst acrylic hardener. It's just a hardener for the acrylics, like I said before. It's something that you add to oil-based paint, and it makes it go off like a two-part. It really does. I mean, it's probably 50, 55 out here right now. I got my little space heater going again. And I guarantee you that this stuff will be a second coat will be ready to be put on within 20 minutes or so. Now, overall hardening usage wise, yeah, I'm thinking tomorrow. So it's just what we're going to have to do. It is what it is. I'm sorry, guys. It's just this is the way it works. We haven't had many setbacks on this boat. And gas tank comes to mind. That was a pretty good setback. It's besides that, I really haven't seen a whole lot. I mean, there's been steady something to do no matter what. Just in this case, this is what we're doing, and this is the only thing we're doing. I mean, we do have the motor here, and we do have some parts down there, but we haven't got all of what we're looking for yet, so we're still holding off on that project. But for right now, I just need to get my box sander out, knock these things off, and get these things painted. If they're painted, then they can be done downstairs, put the cushions back on, put some foam on, all the rest of the stuff that goes with it. But they're not going to do anything just sitting here. Okay, we got our second or third, well, 2.5. Let's go 2.5 coats on. That's plenty. We don't need any more than that. This is actually going to be facing the deck. Hopefully you'll never see this. But, you know, to make it nice and clean and, you know, not all ugly just because. I guess the $1 million seats need a good paint job. And they've both been done inside and out, but it's going to take a good 6-8 hours before they really kind of harden up, which kind of puts me well past my bedtime. So I'll probably be doing this tomorrow. See ya. Alright, this is going to be for another day and another week, I take it, because we're going to cram all them ones in there and then we're just going to do another day. Damn it, we screwed that up. Wait, there's something doing out there. So, welcome back to the garage. Ready, set, go! Let's see, let's do that again. Now we'll go into something else in the side. We'll have to cut this up. We're going to have to cut this up. Maybe we'll just throw that in here now somehow. We gotta get rid of that, yeah. Days and days. Why don't you call it a bucket? See ya. I don't know. What are we going to add there? See ya. Maybe later. So until next time.